Have you ever stopped to think about what the true meaning of life really is? This question spans generations, echoes in human hearts, and always sparks profound reflection. Amidst achievements, joys, and pains, human beings continue to ask themselves, after all, what are we here for? It is precisely at this point that the book of Ecclesiastes, one of the most intriguing in the Bible, emerges as an answer, but not in a simple or superficial way. Today, we will delve into Ecclesiastes like you've never seen before, exploring every hidden detail, every word filled with wisdom, every line that leads us to reflect on our existence and the place that God occupies in our journey. Imagine for a moment Solomon, the wisest king of Israel, someone who had countless riches, absolute power, recognition, pleasures, and everything that many of us, at some point, dream of achieving. Yet faced with all this abundance, Solomon looks at his life and declares, "Vanity of vanities, all is vanity." These words have spanned centuries and continue to provoke unrest because deep down they reveal a truth we all try to ignore. Nothing in this world by itself is capable of filling the void in the human heart. It is here that we begin to understand why this book of Bible, often misunderstood, is in reality a spiritual manual that speaks directly to the soul, showing the contrast between living for the world and living for God. How many times have you chased something, believing that once you achieved it, you'd finally find happiness, a job, a relationship, a material possession, a social position? And when you did, you realized that the feeling of emptiness returned, as if something was always missing. That's exactly what Ecclesiastes shows us, that life without a higher purpose, without spiritual connection, and without the awareness that there is something beyond what we can see and touch, is like chasing the wind. And perhaps that's why this book is so timely, so necessary, so revolutionary, even though it was written thousands of years ago. The most interesting thing is that, behind its apparent hardness, Ecclesiastes brings a profoundly liberating message. It forces us to stop, look within ourselves, and confront the reality of our choices. It calls us to reflect. Are we building our lives on eternal foundations or on fleeting illusions? Are we seeking wisdom or merely momentary pleasure? Are we connecting with the Creator or merely trying to fill the void with achievements that soon vanish like smoke? And that's precisely why I want to invite you to stay with me until the end of this video. Because what we'll discover in each chapter of Ecclesiastes, like you've never seen before, goes beyond simple biblical explanations. Here we'll decipher the hidden symbols, the practical lessons for our time, and, most importantly, understand how this book is a key to living a life with more purpose, balance, and spirituality. Get ready, because this isn't just any text, but one of the most transformative messages in history, sacred history. But before we go on this journey, I want to ask you, have you ever felt that, even surrounded by good things, there was still something missing? Have you ever felt like, no matter how hard you run, you never get anywhere? If so, know that you are not alone. This is the experience of many, and that is why Ecclesiastes remains so necessary. It is not a book of ready-made answers, but an invitation to reflect, question, and in the end, discover that true fulfillment is only found when we recognize that everything comes from God and everything returns to Him. And it is at this point that we begin our journey together, unraveling every aspect of this inspiring text. If you think you already know the book of Ecclesiastes, get ready, because from now on we will see its words in a new light, from a perspective that will stir your mind, touch your heart, and provoke a spiritual transformation you may never have experienced before. And before we go any deeper into this reflection on Ecclesiastes like you've never seen before, I want to open a special space for you who have been following me so far. This channel exists because there are people like you who thirst for spiritual knowledge, who wish to delve into the riches of Bible and find in them answers to life's dilemmas. That's why I want to ask you something very important. Leave your comment below. I want to know which part of the book, Ecclesiastes. What impact did you have on what verses you felt most? What verse speaks most deeply to your heart? Or even what questions you have about this enigmatic book? Your comments not only strengthen our community, but also help me understand the topics that resonate most with you, so I can prepare even more in-depth and targeted content. And since we're talking about strengthening this journey together, don't forget to like this video. It may seem like a small thing, but the simple gesture of clicking the like button makes a huge difference, because it helps YouTube realize that this content is relevant and needs to reach more people. If you believe that the message of Ecclesiastes can transform lives, so your like is also a way to spread the word of God beyond yourself. And of course, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, this is the perfect time to do so. Here we'll continue exploring not only Ecclesiastes, but all the wealth of the spiritual universe and the sacred history that the Bible reveals to us. Each video is an invitation to grow in wisdom, to connect more deeply with the Creator, and to see life through new eyes. By subscribing, you won't miss any of this content, and together we form a true community of people who seek not only to understand the Scriptures, but to live by them. So, take advantage of this. Comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. This is much more than supporting my work. It's a way to actively participate in this mission of bringing God's word to more and more people. And now that you've done your part, let's continue together, because the journey within Ecclesiastes, like you've never seen before, is just beginning, and we still have a lot to discover. Few books of the Bible are as mysterious and provocative as the book of Ecclesiastes. To understand him as you've never seen him before, you must go back in time and immerse yourself in the setting in which his words were written. Imagine yourself in Jerusalem, centuries before the Christian era, in a world surrounded by empires that rose and fell, kings seeking power and wisdom, peoples experiencing glory and ruin in a few years. In this turbulent context, a text emerges that dares to question the meaning of life, the vanity of human achievements, and the incessant pursuit of pleasures that seem to fail to fill the heart. It is in this environment of contrasts that the book of Ecclesiastes, one of the most profound in sacred literature. Tradition attributes authorship to Solomon, the wisest king of Israel, known not only for his intelligence, but also for his wealth and the grandeur of his reign. Solomon was the one who asked God for wisdom rather than gold or power, and received both. Under his leadership, Israel lived days of splendor. But the same man who achieved so much glory also experienced falls, crises, and disappointments. Many scholars believe that the book of Ecclesiastes reflects precisely this more mature phase of his life, when, after tasting every pleasure, understanding every enigma, and accumulating every possession, he faced a harsh reality. All this was fleeting, all was vanity, but there's something even more fascinating about this text. The author speaks not as someone outside of human experience, but as a keen observer of life, as someone who has walked the paths of achievement and frustration. The book has the tone of an intimate diary, a personal reflection, but at the same time echoes universal truths. That's why it remains so relevant. How often, even today, do people who seemingly have it all, money, success, fame, feel empty inside? How often do we ask ourselves, amidst the hustle and bustle of everyday life, what is the purpose of all this? This is precisely the question that this book, Ecclesiastes, puts before us so directly. Understanding the authorship of this book is essential to grasping its depth. If it was indeed Solomon who wrote these words, then we are faced with a man who knew wisdom like few others, who explored the limits of the mind and heart, and who in the end left a valuable testimony. Without God, everything is empty. But even though some modern scholars debate its authorship, claiming that the text may have been compiled by later disciples, what matters is that the spirit of the book remains intact. It is the reflection of a soul that looked at the world, at itself, and realized that eternity only makes sense when lived in the presence of the Creator. The historical context also illuminates the power of this book. Israel, at this time, was experiencing a transition between glory and crisis. The people experienced both the weight of neighboring empires and the temptation to adopt foreign customs. In this context, Ecclesiastes becomes a kind of warning. Life should not be measured solely by external achievements, but by the depth of our relationship with God. And this is precisely what sets it apart from other biblical writings. While Proverbs speaks of practical wisdom for everyday life, and Psalms expresses praise and emotion before God, Ecclesiastes confronts the essence of human existence, reminding us that everything earthly has its limits, but that the meaning of life transcends the visible. Now think with me, isn't this exactly the message we need to hear today? In a society that chases titles, followers, likes, and riches, aren't we often like Solomon, accumulating experiences and things that, in the end, don't fulfill the soul? Ecclesiastes emerges as a prophetic voice that spans the centuries and echoes directly in our modern hearts, saying, "All is vanity, all is a chasing after wind." But this is not a cry of despair. It is an invitation to look beyond the wind, to see the invisible, to seek the eternal. And herein lies the great beauty of this book. It wasn't written to discourage us, but to awaken us. It's as if the author were saying, "I've already lived everything you dream of. I've already achieved everything you think will bring happiness. And in the end, I realize that none of it makes sense apart from God." This brutal honesty is what makes the book of Ecclesiastes so impactful and so necessary. It cuts like a sword, but at the same time points to the only source of true life. By exploring this context and authorship, we not only better understand the book, but are also invited to reflect on our own choices. If Solomon, the wisest man, concluded that without God everything was empty, what makes us believe we can find meaning elsewhere? This is the provocation that permeates the text and remains relevant today. And see how this creates a powerful bridge to the rest of our journey. Because understanding the background of Ecclesiastes, this is just the first step. What comes next is to delve into its words, decipher its symbols, and apply its lessons to our daily lives. And I assure you, each verse, when read carefully, opens doors to insights that can transform not only the way we see the world, but also how we live in it. So stay with me, because we are just beginning to unravel what it means to truly know Ecclesiastes like you've never seen before. When we dive into the pages of Ecclesiastes, we soon come across an expression that repeats itself almost like a constant echo. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. These words echo like a cry that spans the centuries, revealing the fragility of everything that human beings value so much. But what did the author really want to convey with this statement? It's not just a pessimistic lament or a bitter outlook on existence. On the contrary, this message is a key that opens the doors to understanding the transitory nature of all things. The term vanity in the original context does not simply mean pride or futility, but something deeper, lever in Hebrew, which refers to the idea of vapor, breath, mist that soon dissipates. Imagine the scene of a cold morning when we exhale and see a small cloud before our eyes that disappears in seconds. This is human life as described in Ecclesiastes. Everything that seems solid, achievements, pleasures, riches, glory, in the end is nothing more than a passing mist. This perception is disconcerting because it challenges our logic of accumulation, success, and recognition. But the book doesn't stop there. It not only denounces transience, it points to the need to seek what truly endures. And herein lies the genius of this text. By exposing the fragility of everything, he directs us towards eternity. Every time the author states that everything is vanity, he invites us to look beyond the visible horizon, to that which cannot be erased by time. Another central theme we find is the notion of time. In one of the most famous chapters, we read, "There is a time for every purpose under heaven." This passage, which many recognize even outside of religious circles, is one of the most poetic and profound in the Bible. It reminds us that life is marked by seasons, birth and death, planting and harvesting, crying and smiling, losing and winning. Nothing is permanent on earth, and each phase has its own reason for being. This recognition brings two powerful lessons. First, the humility of understanding that we do not control all circumstances. Second, the wisdom of discerning the right time to act, wait, remain silent, or move forward. This reflection on time resonates deeply because we live in an age that idolizes haste. We are constantly rushing, eager for immediate results, trapped in packed schedules and tight deadlines. But Ecclesiastes calls us to pause. He tells us there is a natural cycle to everything, and trying to circumvent these cycles is like trying to hold the wind in your hands. It's not about giving up, but about learning to trust in the God who created time and gives meaning to each season. Furthermore, the book takes a critical look at the pursuit of pleasures. The author recounts experiencing banquets, music, grand buildings, magnificent gardens, women, wine, and everything that could bring momentary joy. However, after experiencing all of this, the conclusion was the same: emptiness. This is one of the most shocking parts because it shows that even the greatest pleasures, when experienced without connection with the Creator, become insufficient. It's like drinking salt water. The more we drink, the thirstier we become. And not just the pleasures, but also the work and the accumulation of wealth are put to the test. The author realizes that no matter how hard one tries, in the end, they will leave everything to others, who can either value or squander the fruits of so many years of effort. This exposes the irony of life. We work so hard, struggle so much, but in the end, we get nothing. This critique is not a denial of the value of work, but a warning not to turn it into an idol. Working is good, but it is not the ultimate purpose of life. The same reasoning applies to human wisdom. Although the author values understanding and intelligence, he also realizes that even the wisest cannot escape death, just as the foolish cannot. This contrast shows that wisdom alone is not enough to guarantee meaning. Without God, even knowledge becomes a burden. Another central point is the reflection on the death. This is perhaps the most disturbing theme of the book. Ecclesiastes confronts head-on the reality everyone would rather avoid. The end of life comes for everyone, whether king or servant, rich or poor. This realization could lead us to despair, but in the context of the book, it functions as a call to urgency. If everything is fleeting, then we need to live consciously, valuing each moment, recognizing that life is a divine gift. And amid these difficult reflections, a ray of hope emerges. The idea that true pleasure lies in living each moment as a gift from God. Eating, drinking, rejoicing in daily work, all of this takes on new meaning when done with gratitude. What was once vanity becomes a blessing when we recognize that it comes from the hands of the Creator. This is the difference. Without Him, emptiness. With Him, fulfillment. This balance between realistic pessimism and transcendent hope is what makes Ecclesiastes unique. It's not a book that paints life with false colors, but it also doesn't leave us in the dark. It shows life as it is, transitory, limited, fragile, and at the same time points us to the only source that gives true meaning. Now think about the impact this message has on our generation. We live surrounded by promises of instant happiness, apps that sell relationships, advertisements that promise consumer fulfillment, courses that guarantee success in a few days. But as the author of Ecclesiastes said thousands of years ago, all this passes. Everything is a mist. It's like chasing the wind. The difference lies in recognizing that, even in the midst of an ephemeral world, there is an eternal purpose that can only be found in God. So when we say we are going to study Ecclesiastes like you've never seen before, we're talking about seeing beyond the surface. It's not enough to repeat that everything is vanity. We must understand that this vanity is an invitation to seek the eternal. It's not enough to say there's a time for everything. We must live in tune with God's timing. It's not enough to recognize that pleasures don't satisfy. We must discover the joy that arises from the divine presence. And it is this discovery that will shape every step of our journey. Because the central messages of Ecclesiastes are not just ancient lessons, they are beacons for modern life. They are reminders that existence, though brief as a breath, can be full when rooted in eternity. And here we pave the way for the next dive, where we will explore how these truths interact with our daily choices, with the dilemmas of practical life, with the internal struggles we all face. If we've already felt the weight and beauty of these messages, what follows will show us how to apply them in every area of our journey. Have you ever wondered why, even after so many years of advancement, knowledge, and technology, we still feel that silent emptiness that seems to follow us wherever we go? This feeling that no matter how much we achieve, something within us is still incomplete is precisely what Ecclesiastes presents to us in such a profound and revealing way. When we open the pages of this ancient book, written thousands of years ago, we find words that sound incredibly modern, as if they were spoken yesterday, meant to guide us amid the chaos of contemporary life. And what's most impressive is that these words weren't just for the kings and sages of ancient Jerusalem. They are for us, here and now, for all who seek meaning amidst intense routine social pressures and seemingly endless expectations. Ecclesiastes, often considered merely a book of reflections on vanity and ephemerality, reveals itself as an essential guide, a spiritual compass capable of showing practical paths for those who wish to live with purpose and fulfillment, even in times of uncertainty. The first lesson that emerges clearly is awareness of the time and the ephemerality of things. The famous verse, "All is vanity," is not just a pessimistic lament, but an invitation to look at our own lives with attention and reflection. It's a call to understand that material accumulation, superficial achievements, and the relentless pursuit of external approval will never fill the deepest void of the human spirit. Ecclesiastes teaches us that there are cycles in life, moments of joy and sadness, success and defeat, and that recognizing this alternation is essential to avoid being consumed by stress, frustration, or anxiety. When we understand that each moment is unique and that each experience has value, we begin to live more consciously, enjoying the present and cultivating gratitude for what truly matters, for genuine relationships, for learning opportunities, and for the time we have to serve and love. Another essential point of the book is the search for practical wisdom. Unlike other texts that may sound abstract or distant from everyday reality, Ecclesiastes offers reflections that can be applied immediately. For example, it warns us about the limits of incessant work and the pursuit of purposeless wealth. Investing all our energy solely in material goods without considering our inner life and human relationships is a trap that leads to burnout and regret. Today, in a world where productivity is exalted and life seems to move faster than we can keep up, this message gains even more relevance. It's as if the author is telling us, stop for a moment, look around, reflect on your steps, because the true value of life is not in what you accumulate, but in what you live and share. It's a call to balance work, rest, coexistence, and spirituality, understanding that each moment has meaning when lived with purpose and attention. Furthermore, Ecclesiastes brings us deep reflections on human and affective relationships. The author reminds us that true friendship, genuine love, and being with people who inspire growth are essential elements for a fulfilling life. He points out that the pursuit of superficial or self-serving relationships is futile, and that true connection is built with patience, respect, and empathy. In the modern context, where social media often makes us measure our worth by the number of followers, likes, or outward appearance, this message resonates powerfully, reminding us that true wealth lies in sincere human interactions, generosity, mutual support, and the building of bonds that endure. The wisdom of Ecclesiastes guides us to discern between what is fleeting and what is lasting, encouraging us to invest our time and energy in what truly transforms lives. Another vital aspect that the book reveals is the balance between pleasure and responsibility, a topic often misunderstood. Many believe that living wisely means giving up joy or experiences that bring happiness, but Ecclesiastes shows that healthy pleasure, appreciation for the little things, the ability to laugh, celebrate achievements, and marvel at the world are integral parts of a balanced life. At the same time, he warns us that irresponsibility, excess, or the pursuit of immediate gratification without reflection are paths that lead to frustration and existential emptiness. This balance, therefore, is an invitation to live consciously, to savor the present without neglecting our inner growth and our impact on the world around us. The perception about the impermanence of power and possessions is also fundamental. Ecclesiastes shows us that everyone, regardless of wealth or status, is subject to the same limitations and challenges in life. This understanding helps us cultivate humility, patience, and faith, remembering that the true value of existence is not measured by external recognition, but by alignment with lasting principles, respect for others, and connection with something greater than ourselves. In a world that constantly promotes comparison, competition, and fear of loss, this message is liberating. It invites us to focus on what truly matters, building character, practicing kindness, and seeking purpose. And finally, Ecclesiastes challenges us to reflect on spirituality in a practical and everyday way. It doesn't just present us with abstract concepts, but rather life instructions that can be applied in everyday life. How to deal with frustrations, how to cultivate gratitude, how to prioritize relationships, how to find joy in small achievements, and above all, how to recognize that life has meaning when lived in tune with eternal values. By connecting these lessons to our modern reality, we can understand that ancient wisdom is not outdated. On the contrary, it is profoundly transformative, capable of illuminating paths, reducing anxiety, strengthening faith, and making us more conscious, resilient, and connected to our divine purpose. And it is exactly this depth of Ecclesiastes like you've never seen before, which we will explore further in the following topics. Prepare to delve into surprising insights, practical revelations, and interpretations that will transform the way you view life, work, relationships, and faith itself. Each verse, each reflection we will detail, carries a message that resonates with you today at this very moment, showing that divine wisdom does not age. It adapts, it guides, it transforms. The depth of Ecclesiastes goes far beyond what appears upon first reading. Each verse, each reflection, carries layers of wisdom that, when understood, can transform one's perception of existence and spirituality. By carefully analyzing the text, one realizes that the book is not merely a lamentation about the vanity of life, but an invitation to contemplation, awareness, and the practice of principles that apply to everyday life and the spiritual journey of anyone seeking meaning. The famous all is vanity should not be understood as despair, but as a warning about the ephemerality of human achievements and the need to direct efforts toward what truly matters, cultivating lasting values aligned with divine will. This vision, when applied with discernment, offers a map for reflection on life, capable of illuminating decisions, priorities, and relationships in surprising ways. One of the book's most revealing insights is the perception of human limitations in the face of time and events beyond our control. The author emphasizes that not every effort produces lasting results, nor does every plan guarantee security or stability. This reality, far from being discouraging, is an invitation to conscious acceptance, to appreciating the present moment, and to the ability to find purpose even amid uncertainty. By observing life through this lens, each experience becomes relevant, each challenge a learning experience, and each decision an opportunity for inner growth. Deep reflection on the transience of the material world and circumstances allows us to develop wisdom, patience, and emotional balance, essential qualities for facing the ups and downs of existence without losing connection with eternal spiritual principles. Another secret worth noting is the relationship between pleasure and purpose. Ecclesiastes doesn't suggest that the pursuit of moments of joy or satisfaction is wrong. On the contrary, it warns against turning these moments into isolated or empty pursuits. The balance between enjoying life's blessings and focusing on principles that transcend immediacy is essential to building a life of true meaning. This includes conscious choices about leisure, relationships, work, and personal investments. Reflecting on the balance between satisfaction and responsibility reveals that pleasure gains value when aligned with ethics, spirituality, and the positive impact it can have on one's own life and the lives of those around us. A close observation of everyday life reveals another profound aspect of Ecclesiastes. Wisdom often manifests itself in the simplest experiences. Natural cycles, human interactions, small achievements, daily routines, moments of silence and contemplation, all of them carry lessons that, when understood, teach us about patience, gratitude, and discernment. The ability to find meaning in ordinary situations transforms each seemingly ordinary experience into an opportunity for growth, applied spirituality, and connection with something greater, allowing life to be lived with greater intensity and purpose. Furthermore, the book highlights the importance of work done with awareness and intention. Human effort, when devoid of purpose, becomes useless and empty, but when practiced with dedication, gratitude, and a sense of contribution, it becomes a source of personal satisfaction, development, and positive influence. This perspective is extremely relevant in modern times, where productivity is often confused with meaning. The wisdom of Ecclesiastes reminds us that true fulfillment comes from uniting effort, awareness, and purpose, cultivating results that transcend the ephemeral. An often overlooked but crucial theme is the impact of individual actions on community and society. Justice, leadership, compassion, and social responsibility are essential elements of the author's thinking. Personal decisions reverberate beyond the individual, shaping relationships, influencing others, and establishing ethical standards that reflect divine principles. Recognizing this dimension of the book reinforces the importance of living with integrity, honesty, and consideration for the common good, connecting spiritual wisdom with practical life. Awareness of uncertainty and divine mystery is another central point. Not everything can be understood or controlled, and accepting this reality fosters humility, faith, and dependence on God. Life presents itself full of enigmas and unpredictable situations, but this awareness does not lead to despair. On the contrary, It reinforces the need to trust, obey, and align oneself with higher principles, cultivating resilience and patience in the face of inevitable challenges. Introspection and personal reflection are continually emphasized in Ecclesiastes. The practice of examining thoughts, intentions, and behaviors allows us to align our lives with deep spiritual values, ensuring more conscious decisions and actions consistent with a purposeful life. The wisdom gained through introspection strengthens resilience, enhances discernment, and deepens connection with eternal principles. Finally, the book challenges us to transform knowledge into practical action. It's not enough to understand the ephemerality of life or recognize its principles. It's necessary to apply wisdom to every decision, cultivate meaningful relationships, practice gratitude, exercise ethics, and live by values that endure beyond the immediate. True purpose emerges when understanding translates into concrete actions, demonstrating living faith, applied wisdom, and a commitment to the greater good. As we explore the hidden secrets of Ecclesiastes, it becomes clear that the book is not just a literary reflection, but a profound source of practical wisdom, spiritual insights and teachings applicable to contemporary life. Each page invites a journey of introspection, conscious action, and connection with eternal truth, making this text relevant, transformative, and capable of positively influencing how one approaches life, challenges, and daily choices. It is this legacy that makes Ecclesiastes an indispensable guide for those who wish to understand the true meaning of existence and live with genuine purpose, aligning themselves with God's will and the pursuit of wisdom, justice, and spiritual fulfillment. Applying Ecclesiastes' teachings to the modern world requires attention, deep reflection, and a willingness to transform ancient insights into concrete everyday practices. Written thousands of years ago, the book remains incredibly relevant, demonstrating that the search for meaning, purpose, and balance has not changed. The wisdom contained in its words transcends generations, offering guidelines for dealing with anxiety, uncertainty, frustration, and the challenges inherent to each era. One of the most impactful aspects that stands out is the understanding of the ephemerality of human achievements and the need to align efforts and decisions with eternal principles. Realizing that wealth, status, and power are transitory is not a call to discouragement, but an invitation to conscious reflection on how to invest energy in actions that bring lasting impact and genuinely transform lives. In practice, this means developing the ability to differentiate between what is fleeting and what is essential. Modern societies are filled with distractions, pressure to accumulate possessions, social comparisons, and a fast pace that often leads us to lose sight of the value of time, faith, and meaningful relationships. Ecclesiastes warns against seeking only immediate pleasures or superficial achievements, showing that true fulfillment comes from balancing care for the material world, spirituality, and inner growth. This perspective requires discipline, self-awareness, and the courage to resist external pressure, choices that are not always easy, but that bring profound rewards in terms of peace, clarity, and alignment with divine will. Another vital lesson is the importance of recognizing and accepting the natural cycles of life. The author emphasizes that there are times of construction and harvest, planting and waiting, periods of joy and mourning, prosperity and challenge. Each phase brings unique lessons, and the ability to perceive these patterns fosters resilience, patience, and wisdom. In the modern world, where haste and immediate expectations predominate, understanding and respecting these cycles represents a powerful tool for dealing with frustrations, defeats, and delays without losing emotional balance or faith in the divine plan. This awareness encourages a posture of observation and adaptation, allowing us to make more thoughtful decisions and live in alignment with the spiritual and ethical principles that Ecclesiastes so profoundly highlights. The application of these teachings also manifests itself in relationship management. The biblical text demonstrates that authentic connections based on respect, love, compassion, and integrity are more valuable than any form of social recognition or material gain. In the contemporary context, where relationships are often superficial and shaped by interests or appearances, understanding the depth of human bonds described in Ecclesiastes helps cultivate sincere friendships, meaningful partnerships, and a community founded on solid values. This implies acting with empathy, honesty, and loyalty, reflecting spiritual wisdom and ensuring that each interaction contributes to mutual growth and personal harmony. The practice of introspection encouraged by the book is another essential tool. Regularly evaluating thoughts, intentions, and actions allows us to adjust behaviors, strengthen virtues, and correct attitudes that are not aligned with eternal principles. This continuous reflection offers clarity about choices, promotes self-knowledge, and strengthens the relationship with God, bringing spiritual and emotional security. By integrating this practice into our daily routine, every decision becomes conscious. Every action carries purpose, and every challenge becomes a learning opportunity, reinforcing the meaning of life and the connection with eternal truth. Furthermore, Ecclesiastes emphasizes the importance of a balance between work, leisure, and devotion. In the modern world, where stress and overwhelm are constant, recognizing that life must be harmonious, balancing effort, rest, and spirituality is essential to avoid physical, emotional, and spiritual exhaustion. The author emphasizes that work, when practiced with awareness and gratitude, generates purpose and satisfaction. Rest, when valued, strengthens the body and mind, and faith, when cultivated, lights the path, providing direction and resilience in the face of adversity. This practical integration transforms routine into a rich, meaningful experience aligned with divine principles. The text also draws attention to the value of wisdom in everyday decisions. Observing, learning, and acting with discernment prevents mistakes, protects against life's pitfalls, and guides the individual toward a more balanced and fulfilling existence. Ecclesiastes reinforces that understanding human limits, accepting the finiteness of circumstances, and trusting in God allows us to act with serenity, wisdom, and courage, making each step safer and each choice more meaningful. Wisdom is not limited to intellectual knowledge, but manifests itself in practical actions, aligned with morality, spirituality, and life purpose. Finally, applying the principles of Ecclesiastes involves living with gratitude, contentment, and an awareness of the value of the present life. Every moment, every challenge, every joy carries transformative potential when viewed through the light of faith and wisdom. The author reminds us that life should not be wasted on vanity, comparisons, or excessive worry, but rather used to grow spiritually, strengthen bonds, practice justice, and cultivate lasting virtues. This lesson is especially powerful today, when distractions, pressures, and external expectations often distort our perception of what truly matters. Integrating Ecclesiastes' teachings into contemporary life, therefore, means uniting reflection, action, discernment, and spirituality. It means applying ancient wisdom to navigate modern challenges, find purpose, develop resilience, cultivate virtues, and live in harmony with eternal principles. Each lesson learned becomes a practical guide, capable of illuminating decisions, strengthening character, and connecting daily existence with eternity. When this understanding becomes action, life transforms, making each day meaningful, purposeful, and aligned with divine design, demonstrating that Ecclesiastes, like never before, is a living source of wisdom for all time. Understanding the meaning of life according to Ecclesiastes is a challenge that transcends generations, inviting each reader or viewer to delve into profound reflections on human existence, the purpose of actions, and the transitory nature of earthly achievements. The ancient text repeatedly warns us about the vanity of material achievements, the futility of exclusively worldly pursuits, and the need to see beyond appearances. In a world filled with external pressures, distractions, and constant competition, absorbing this message requires a genuine openness to question established patterns and rediscover the value of what is eternal and immutable. The essence of the teaching is not to discourage the pursuit of success or well-being, but to guide these achievements so that they are balanced with spiritual principles, lasting virtues and alignment with divine will, ensuring that every human endeavor is directed with wisdom and discernment. Ecclesiastes presents a clear vision. Everything under the sun is temporary, fleeting, and in many cases illusory. Wealth, fame, power, social recognition, all these dimensions may offer momentary satisfaction, but they do not guarantee lasting peace or real purpose. This perspective forces introspection and a critical evaluation of personal priorities. The question the author leaves us with is inevitable. What really matters amidst all the rushing, ambition, and relentless pursuit of what is lost with time? This profound question seeks not only to spark curiosity, but to provoke transformation, encouraging each individual to look within, discover their core values, and align their lives with principles that transcend fads, trends, and ephemeral desires. A central point addressed in Ecclesiastes is the importance of balance between work, leisure, relationships, and spirituality. The book emphasizes that every aspect of life should be valued, but without losing sight of the fact that all achievements are temporary and depend on God's grace. Working with dedication, but without obsession, enjoying leisure time, but maintaining a focus on faith, cultivating healthy relationships, but without relying exclusively on human approval or recognition, this harmony becomes a practical guide for coping with the stress and anxiety of modern life. By viewing each action in light of eternity, the individual finds a sense of purpose that transcends human limits, connecting the present with a divine perspective. Reflecting on the passage of time is another crucial element. Ecclesiastes reminds us that each life is limited, each experience has its cycle, and each opportunity must be seized wisely. Ignoring this reality results in frustration, regret, and a feeling of emptiness, even in the face of apparent success. Understanding and respecting the finiteness of moments strengthens awareness of the importance of living with attention, intention, and gratitude. Perceiving time as a precious resource drives more conscious decisions, encourages the appreciation of people, experiences, and learning, and awakens the urgency to seek a true connection with God, who offers eternal meaning beyond temporal circumstances. Another essential lesson is the realization that knowledge and wisdom, while highly valued, have limits. Accumulating information or skills is no substitute for spiritual discernment, humility, and faith. The author shows that even the deepest wisdom does not eliminate suffering or uncertainty, but provides tools to face them with courage, clarity, and serenity. Recognizing that there are mysteries that only God understands teaches us to trust, accept what cannot be controlled, and act according to correct principles, cultivating virtues such as patience, justice, compassion, and integrity. This approach transforms every challenge into an opportunity for learning and spiritual growth, aligning the human journey with divine purpose. Ecclesiastes also addresses the inevitability of death, not as a reason for fear, but as an incentive to live consciously and fully. By reflecting on the finiteness of existence, we are invited to value relationships, experiences, and the practice of virtues that endure even after our earthly life ends. This awareness creates a healthy urgency, encouraging each person to act purposefully, make choices aligned with faith, and build a legacy that transcends generations. Death ceases to be a tragic end and becomes a perspective that guides conscious choices, gratitude, and responsibility for each present moment. Throughout the book, we also identify the importance of recognizing God's sovereignty in all circumstances. Ecclesiastes reveals that, despite life's apparent randomness and inevitable ups and downs, there is a divine plan that guides history, protects the righteous, and offers hope to those who trust. This realization strengthens faith, strengthens resilience in the face of challenges, and provides a foundation for facing adversity without despair or resignation. Understanding that every situation, from joy to suffering, is embedded in a larger, meaningful context allows us to act with wisdom, patience, and trust in divine guidance. Finally, the practice of gratitude and contentment stands out as a transformative principle. By recognizing every blessing, every lesson, and every moment of growth, the individual finds peace, purpose, and satisfaction that are independent of external factors. Gratitude directs attention to what is essential, strengthens the connection with God, and creates a positive outlook on life, regardless of difficulties. Contentment is not passivity, but a conscious choice to value what truly matters, cultivating serenity and joy that persist even in adverse circumstances. Thus, a profound understanding of vanity and the meaning of life, according to Ecclesiastes, offers practical and spiritual tools for facing the contemporary world, transforming perspectives, choices, and attitudes. Ancient wisdom, when applied with attention and faith, becomes a guide for a full, balanced life aligned with eternity, revealing that every action, every decision, and every reflection has the potential to impact not only the present, but also the spiritual and moral legacy we leave for future generations. By understanding the depth of the text, each person is called to live with purpose, discernment, and faith, reclaiming the true meaning of existence and discovering the transformative power of divine wisdom. As we delve deeper into the book of Ecclesiastes, we are confronted with an essential reflection: the search for the purpose of each human existence. This ancient work offers no superficial or immediate answers, but challenges each reader to examine their priorities, analyze the true meaning of their actions, and discern between what is fleeting and what has eternal value. Amidst daily concerns, work routines, human relationships, and social challenges, it is easy to lose sight of what truly sustains the soul. Ecclesiastes emerges as a guide to redirect men's and women's gaze toward horizons that transcend the material, teaching that true fulfillment is not found in the accumulation of wealth, recognition, or power, but in alignment with divine principles, in the practice of justice, and in the wisdom that leads to balance in life. Time, according to the author, is a sacred dimension that must be recognized and respected at every stage of existence. It is not just the counting of days, months, and years, but the structure God established for each human being to live with purpose and meaning. The famous phrase, "There is a time for everything under heaven," invites us to understand that every action, decision, and experience has a specific timing, and ignoring this order results in frustration, regret, and a feeling of emptiness. Perceiving time as a divine gift transforms the way we face challenges, joys, and even inevitable losses, encouraging the development of patience, discernment, and prudence in all choices. The search for meaning in life, emphasized in Ecclesiastes, is not merely philosophical, but profoundly spiritual. The text reminds us that without a true connection with the Creator, even the greatest achievements become ephemeral and unfulfilling. Accumulated riches, honors received, or honed talents do not fill the inner void that arises when the soul remains disconnected from the divine source. In this context, faith emerges as the foundation that provides emotional and spiritual stability, allowing each individual to find peace even in the face of adversity, recognize the importance of their choices, and be willing to live according to God's will, which is just wise and eternally beneficial. Furthermore, Ecclesiastes warns us against the illusion of the relentless pursuit of pleasure and comfort. The human experience is marked by constant desires, but satisfying them without discernment does not lead to lasting happiness. Momentary pleasure, when disconnected from purpose, can become a source of frustration, distraction, and even self-destruction. Instead, the author proposes deep reflection on what truly nourishes the spirit: sincere relationships, actions that promote justice and kindness, and moments of contemplation that strengthen the awareness of God's presence in everyday life. This perspective transforms the way we approach each day, each challenge, and each opportunity, revealing that true joy is rooted in eternal principles, not temporary circumstances. Another essential aspect is the appreciation of simplicity and contentment. Ecclesiastes teaches that complexity, the pursuit of excess, and constant competition are not paths to true fulfillment. On the contrary, cultivating gratitude for what one has, recognizing small blessings, and living humbly before the Lord's gifts brings a satisfaction that surpasses any material success. Conscious contentment creates emotional balance, strengthens faith, and provides clarity to identify opportunities for spiritual and personal growth, keeping the individual anchored in values that withstand the turbulence of time. The book also emphasizes the inevitability of death as a factor that gives meaning to life. Confronting this reality shouldn't generate fear or hopelessness, but rather an urgency to live fully, love deeply, and act with purpose. Awareness of finitude helps us prioritize what's truly important, value relationships, care for our souls, and invest in actions that generate lasting positive impact. Every decision, every moral choice, and every moment of introspection becomes meaningful as they are constructs that reflect eternity and divine intention. Furthermore, Ecclesiastes reveals the importance of a balance between knowledge, wisdom, and action. Wisdom is not merely the accumulation of information, but the ability to discern, choose correctly, and act according to spiritual principles. Knowledge without practice results in frustration. Practice without understanding leads to error. The integration of wisdom, faith, and action creates a coherent, fulfilling life aligned with the Lord's will, allowing each challenge to be transformed into a learning experience and each achievement to be lived with gratitude and purpose. The work also highlights the importance of spiritual legacy. Every conscious action, every righteous choice, and every demonstration of faith contributes to building a lasting impact, not only for the individual, but for the entire community and future generations. Ecclesiastes encourages us to live in a way that leaves marks that reflect character, integrity, and wisdom, ensuring that even after the end of physical existence, the principles lived continue to inspire and guide others, perpetuating eternal values. Ultimately, the pursuit of purpose, according to Ecclesiastes, invites us to a continuous state of reflection, humility, and openness to divine guidance. Awareness of time, appreciation for simplicity, the practice of gratitude, and the integration of knowledge, faith, and action become pillars that sustain a meaningful life. Each experience, each challenge, and each victory come to be understood as opportunities for spiritual and moral growth, allowing human beings to transcend the ephemerality of the material world and find true fulfillment in connection with God, in the practice of lasting virtues, and in the profound understanding of the eternity that guides each step. As we delve deeper into the words of Ecclesiastes, we realize that wisdom is not just theory, but living practice that transforms every aspect of human existence. The preacher warns us that the heart of the wise is on the right hand, but the heart of the fool on the left. Ecclesiastes 10:2, indicating that discernment is not just a concept, but a force that guides decisions and shapes destinies. This book, written millennia ago, remains relevant because it challenges each person to reflect on their daily choices, the way they lead their lives, and the values that truly endure. Wisdom, according to Ecclesiastes, is not limited to accumulating knowledge, but to applying understanding in a way that leads to inner peace, justice, and connection with the Creator. The preacher emphasizes the transience of all earthly things, saying, "Vanity of vanities, all is vanity." Ecclesiastes 1:2. This powerful phrase is not an invitation to pessimism, but a call to reflect on what truly matters. In a world where fame, wealth, and recognition seem to dominate life, Ecclesiastes reminds us that such achievements are fleeting and that investing in wisdom and righteous actions bears lasting fruit. Every decision made with spiritual awareness builds a legacy that endures the test of time, while superficial choices can be lost in the winds of ephemerality. The book also teaches us that life is made up of cycles and determined moments. To everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under the heaven. Ecclesiastes 3:1. Understanding this truth allows each individual to face challenges with serenity and seize opportunities with gratitude. Knowing that there is a time to be born, to plant, to laugh, to cry, and to reflect helps to structure one's existence in a balanced way, avoiding impulsive decisions guided only by momentary desires. The practice of patience thus becomes a profound spiritual exercise, strengthening faith and preparing the heart to discern God's will in every situation. Ecclesiastes also warns us about the dangers of greed and excessive attachment to material wealth. Whoever loves money will never be satisfied with money. Ecclesiastes 5:10. This warning is crucial for the contemporary world, where the relentless pursuit of material goods can distance one from the true purpose of their life. The preacher's reflection leads us to understand that abundance is no guarantee of happiness. On the contrary, wisdom lies in recognizing real needs, valuing what is essential, and investing time, resources, and energy in actions that benefit the soul and others. Generosity, justice, and compassion are pillars that transform everyday life into something meaningful. Another profound lesson is the importance of recognizing human limits and trusting in divine guidance. Do not be hasty in your spirit to anger, for anger rests in the bosom of fools. Ecclesiastes 7:9. Emotional control, combined with reflection and patience, is a path to making sound decisions and avoiding mistakes that could lead to future regret. The daily practice of self-control, humility, and prayer creates a space where wisdom manifests, allowing each step to be guided by divine discernment. Ecclesiastes also encourages the appreciation of work and purposeful dedication. I have seen that there is nothing better for a man than to enjoy his work. Ecclesiastes 3:22. Work, when performed with integrity and conscientiousness, not only sustains life, but becomes a form of worship, a practical expression of faith and commitment to eternal principles. Transforming each task into an opportunity for spiritual growth and service to others is key to living according to divine wisdom. Furthermore, the preacher emphasizes the importance of continuous reflection on life, which includes meditating on the past, learning from experiences, and responsibly planning for the future. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth. Ecclesiastes 12:1. This call is a reminder that it is never too early or too late to align our actions with God's will, cultivating habits that strengthen character and prepare the soul to face life's challenges. The balance between pleasure and responsibility is also emphasized. Eat your bread with gladness and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God already accepts your works. Ecclesiastes 9:7. Life should not be lived solely in worry or austerity, but with conscious joy, gratitude, and recognition of divine providence. Healthy pleasure, when aligned with spiritual principles, becomes a form of praise and a path to experiencing the fullness of existence. Finally, Ecclesiastes leads us to reflect on the legacy we leave. What is hidden from man will be revealed, and what he does will be known. Ecclesiastes 12:14. Every action, every decision, every ethical or unjust choice reverberates not only in the present, but also influences future generations. Living wisely, therefore, means creating a positive and lasting impact, setting an example of faith, integrity, and connection with God. The practice of wisdom, combined with continuous reflection, gratitude, and just action, transforms life into something that transcends time, giving real meaning to existence and revealing the grandeur of divine purpose. As we reach the culmination of this journey through the book of Ecclesiastes, we are confronted with the magnitude of the wisdom contained within its pages, and the preacher's profound invitation to live fully consciously and connected to the divine. He leads us to see life not simply as a sequence of days and events, but as a sacred mosaic where every decision, every emotion, and every action has a purpose that transcends existence itself. The preacher reminds us that to everything there is a season, a time for every activity under the heavens, Ecclesiastes 3:1, showing us that nothing happens by chance, and that every moment, whether of joy, sadness, or reflection, carries profound spiritual lessons that shape character and strengthen the soul. Understanding this truth is fundamental for those who wish to live with wisdom, discernment, and a true connection with God, realizing that the ordinary becomes extraordinary when we see it through the lens of faith. Ecclesiastes challenges us to see beyond appearances, to not be deceived by temporal achievements, material wealth, or fleeting praise. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity, Ecclesiastes 1:2, says the preacher, and this phrase, though brief, carries transformative weight. It's not a discouragement in the face of life, but a powerful call to evaluate where we truly place our energy and our hearts. The contemporary world constantly invites us to rush, compete, and consume, but the reflection proposed by the book brings us back to the essence: investing in the spirit, cultivating wisdom, practicing justice, love, and compassion, and recognizing that true wealth is connection with the Creator and doing good to others. Throughout the work, we are reminded of the importance of balancing pleasure and responsibility, of experiencing moments of joy with spiritual awareness. Eat your bread with gladness and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God already has pleasure in your works. Ecclesiastes 9:7. This message teaches us that life is not just about sacrifices or incessant worries. There is beauty and purpose in simple moments, in relationships, in honest work, in dedication, and in celebrating what God gives us. The wisdom of Ecclesiastes shows us that everything is enhanced when we align our actions with divine will, allowing each gesture to become an expression of faith, gratitude, and purpose. Another essential point the book addresses is the awareness of one's own finitude and the need to live with integrity and attention to spiritual values. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth, Ecclesiastes 12:1, is not just advice for young people, but an eternal reminder that time is precious and that we must cultivate it carefully, seeking to develop the spirit, strengthen character, and build a legacy that goes beyond material possessions or human approval. Every choice has an impact, and life becomes a living testimony of faith, obedience, and the practice of wisdom that transcends time and circumstances. Ecclesiastes also warns us about the dangers of anxiety and haste, showing that patience, reflection, and emotional balance are powerful tools for a fulfilling life. Do not be hasty in your spirit to anger, for anger rests in the bosom of fools. Ecclesiastes 7:9. This instruction is not only practical, but deeply spiritual, controlling impulses, reflecting before acting, seeking discernment, and trusting in God's guidance are attitudes that lead to true freedom and inner peace. The preacher reminds us that every challenge and obstacle is an opportunity for growth, and that wisdom is revealed in moments when faith is put into practice in the face of adversity. Throughout Ecclesiastes, we also find a clear vision of each individual's responsibility regarding the legacy they leave, the choices they make, and the impact they have on their community and future generations. What is hidden from man will be revealed, and what he does will be known. Ecclesiastes 12:14. This message challenges us to live with integrity, awareness, and dedication, understanding that our actions reverberate far beyond the present, shaping the lives of those around us and creating opportunities for spiritual transformation that can last for centuries. Every act of kindness, every gesture of justice, and every word of encouragement becomes a seed of hope and faith, reflecting the grandeur of divine purpose and strengthening our connection with God. Furthermore, Ecclesiastes invites us to celebrate life in a balanced way, to cherish moments of joy, to share meaningful experiences, and to seek wisdom in every detail of daily life. Life, when viewed through the lens of faith and spiritual reflection, becomes a journey filled with purpose, meaning, and growth. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for men. Ecclesiastes 9:10 reminds us that every effort, every decision, and every action can be transformed into living worship, strengthening our spirituality and opening pathways to lasting blessings. As we approach the end of this journey, it becomes clear that Ecclesiastes is not just a book, but a life manual, a guide to understanding transience, valuing wisdom, and living in harmony with God. It is an invitation to reflect on what truly matters, to invest in eternal virtues, to recognize human frailty, and to depend on divine guidance every step of the way. It challenges us to seek true happiness, the kind that does not fade with time, and to live with awareness, faith, and purpose in every action, transforming each moment into an opportunity for spiritual growth. If you've made it this far, you've felt the call of God's Word resonate in your heart. Leave a comment with the most impactful lesson you learned from this video. Share how Ecclesiastes touched your life and inspire others to reflect on the wisdom contained in this timeless book. Don't forget to like if this content brought clarity, inspiration, or transformation to your life. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos, which will continue exploring spiritual treasures and profound revelations from the Bible and the sacred universe. And before closing, click on the next video that's appearing on the screen to continue this journey of knowledge, faith, and reflection, discovering even more how God's wisdom can illuminate your daily walk.